Welcome to Daily English Flow. Stay until the end for a special bonus tip. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is the brief on building your English survival lexicon. Look, staring at an English dictionary is totally overwhelming, right? Well, here's some massive relief. Studies show just 500 to 800 core words make up nearly 80% of everyday English conversations, meaning you literally just need this survival lexicon to function. First, you've got to hunt for anchor words. As a beginner, don't panic trying to catch every single syllable native speakers say. Instead, become a word hunter. Listen for high-frequency nouns, verbs, and question words like where or when. Seriously, why try to catch every raindrop in a storm? Catch the anchors, filter out the wall of noise, and the core message is yours. Second, speak in survival chunks. Memorizing isolated words like I want water kind of makes speaking robotic and causes anxiety because you're building sentences from scratch. Instead, memorize pre-assembled language blocks like where is the, and just plug your anchor words onto the end. I mean, why build a car from scratch every time you drive when you can just use a pre-made template and hit the gas? Finally, let your vocabulary trigger your grammar. You don't need to memorize scary, abstract grammar tables. At the beginner level, the vocabulary word itself tells you the rule. Tag words as countable or uncountable, like an apple versus some water, and learn places with their prepositions as a single chunk. Don't just learn hospital, learn at the hospital. It's like a built-in software update. Learn the word with its tag, and grammar takes care of itself automatically. Ditch the massive dictionary and focus on your unbreakable survival chunks to start navigating the English-speaking world immediately.
Welcome to the Explainer. So have you ever looked at a massive 1,000-page English dictionary, felt the sheer weight of it in your hands, and just felt completely overwhelmed? Yeah, it's a super common feeling. When you're standing at the starting line of learning a new language, that giant book looks like an impossible mountain to climb. But the material we are exploring today throws that heavy dictionary right out the window. Instead, it suggests building what it calls a survival lexicon.
It's perfectly natural to feel defeated when you think the goal is to memorize every single word in there. You've probably thought to yourself, how on earth can I possibly memorize all of this? It's going to take me 50 years, right? That anxiety is exactly what stops so many learners in their tracks before they even really begin. So the crucial point the research makes here is incredibly liberating. You absolutely do not need to know all the words.
Linguistic studies have actually proven that mastering just 500 to 800 core words covers nearly 80% of everyday real-life English conversations. Let that sink in. That is a massive return on investment for your time. The vast majority of the dictionary falls into that sliver of other vocabulary that you rarely need, or words you will practically never use. This means you literally don't need all the words to survive. You just need a highly targeted, highly functional toolkit.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our syllabus for today's Explainer. We'll be covering, first, the great vocabulary secret. Second, hunting words and speaking chunks. Third, reading signs and writing lists. Fourth, the 5 survival pillars. And finally, how vocabulary triggers automatic grammar.
Section 1, the great vocabulary secret, moving from chaos to the survival lexicon.
Our source material actively ignores those random lists of obscure animals or rare colors that traditional textbooks just love to hand out. We are focusing purely on high-frequency survival here. The core message is that you don't need a massive vocabulary to start participating in the world. You just need the right vocabulary. With this specific foundation of just 500 to 800 words, you can immediately travel, order food at a restaurant, introduce yourself confidently, and make friends in an English-speaking environment. You get to start actually living in the language right now, today.
Section 2, hunting words, speaking chunks, filtering noise and speaking instantly.
Let's face it, when you're a beginner, listening to a native speaker can feel like standing in front of a terrifying, solid wall of noise. Your brain tries to catch every single syllable, fails, panics, and then just shuts down entirely. But notice the contrast in these two strategies. Imagine someone says, "Excuse me, could you possibly tell me where the nearest train station is?" The panicking brain tries to translate excuse, possibly, and nearest and totally misses the point. But the smart A1 listener, they're a word hunter. They filter out all that polite noise and only catch the anchors, where and train station. Boom! You've got the core message, and you can point them right down the street. Those words we just caught, those are called anchor words. They are the core nouns, verbs, and question words that carry 90% of the meaning in any given sentence. To train your brain to hear them, you can use 3 simple strategies. First, the word hunt. Pick 3 core words, play an audio track, and literally tap your desk every time you hear them to physically train your ear. Second, spotting question words. If you hear where, your brain should instantly prep for a location. If you hear when, prep for a time. And third, tune your number and time radar to catch prices, days, and times, because those are absolutely essential for survival.
But hey, what happens when it's your turn to talk? The biggest mistake learners make is trying to build sentences from scratch using isolated words. You know the drill. You memorize I, then want, then water, and when you're thirsty, you slowly and robotically say, I want water. It's incredibly slow, and honestly, it causes a lot of anxiety. We really need to shift away from isolated words and move entirely to what we call survival chunks.
Survival chunks are pre-assembled blocks of language that you can use instantly without ever pausing to think about grammar. Instead of the word like, you learn the chunk, I would like. Then you just plug your new vocabulary right onto the end of it. I would like a coffee, or I would like the chicken. To make these really stick, the materials suggest 3 deliberate tactics. First, the 3-sentence rule. Don't move on from a new word until you've spoken it in 3 different survival sentences out loud. Second, practice the paraphrase pivot. If you forget the word umbrella, no big deal. Just say the thing for the rain. And finally, shadow these chunks by listening to simple videos and mimicking the exact intonation. Section 3. Reading signs, writing lists, environmental print, and muscle memory. At the beginner level, your goal isn't reading classic novels. It's navigating the physical world and building muscle memory. To do that, you have to decode what we call environmental print. This means instantly recognizing words in public spaces. Entrance, exit, push, pull, men, women, sail. You can practice this by pulling up online restaurant menus and finding category anchors like chicken or beef and cooking anchors like fried or grilled. Combine those and you can read 80% of any menu globally. You also have to tackle sight words. English spelling, as we all know, can be incredibly chaotic. Words like the, no, and enough break all phonetic rules. You can't sound them out. You just have to memorize them as visual pictures. Now, to lock those tricky spellings in, writing is your best tool, specifically writing with a physical pen, which builds muscle memory way faster than typing on a phone screen. Here are 3 actionable routines. First, the copywork habit. Handwrite a short 4-line dialogue into a notebook every single day. Second, the daily list. Write your actual functional grocery or to-do lists in English so your brain assigns real importance to those words. And third, perform a spelling autopsy. If you misspell a word, figure out why. Is there a silent letter? Write it correctly 5 times and circle that tricky letter in red ink. Section 4. The 5 survival pillars. The exact words you need to conquer A1. Now we arrive at the absolute heart of this explainer. This is where we completely replace random dictionary memorization with the exact words you need to conquer your daily life. We divide the survival lexicon into 5 essential categories. Pillar 1 consists of the 15 superverbs. We're talking about words like be, have, do, go, come, want, need, like, love, eat, drink, sleep, wake, know, understand, and think. The data points out something incredible here. If you master just these 15 superverbs, you gain the power to express almost any basic human action, need, or desire. It is an unbelievably powerful foundation. Let's move to the next pillars and see how this builds across the rest of your daily life. Pillar 2 contains your question words: who, what, where, when, why, how. These are literally the keys to the world, because you cannot survive if you can't ask for help or information. Pillar 3 is time and numbers. Life runs on time and money, so you need the numbers 1 to 100, days, months, and markers like today and tomorrow. Pillar 4 covers essential people and places, like family members, the doctor, your home, or the hospital. And Pillar 5 rounds the whole thing out with food, body parts, which is absolutely crucial if you need a pharmacy, and clothing. This is your ultimate real-world survival toolkit. But how do you actually remember them all? The research reveals a simple secret. Avoid the 3-hour Sunday study binge. If you stare at a list for 3 hours on Sunday and ignore it until next week, you're going to forget everything. Instead, use a spaced repetition system, an SRS-at like Anki or Quizlet. Review your core words for just 10 minutes every day. These apps show you the exact word right at the moment your brain is about to forget it. locking that lexicon into your permanent long-term memory.
Section 5, Vocabulary Triggers Automatic Grammar, solving 50% of mistakes instantly.
Here is the massive payoff of this entire framework. At the beginner level, grammar feels like a total nightmare of abstract rules. But it turns out the vocabulary word itself tells you exactly which grammar rule to use. You just need to categorize your vocabulary correctly. Let's break down the first trigger. When you learn a noun, tag it as countable or uncountable. If it's a countable object, like a car or an apple, the grammar trigger is A or N. You say, I want an apple. If it's uncountable, like liquids or concepts, water, rice, money, the grammar trigger is some. You say, I want some water. You never say a water or a money. Just by tagging words this way when you learn them, you instantly fix 50% of common beginner grammar mistakes. It's a real game changer.
The second trigger differentiates your verbs. Is it an action verb like run, work, or play? If it's an action you actually do, the grammar trigger for a question uses do or does. For example, do you work? But if it's a state verb, a feeling or condition, particularly the verb be, you never use do. You just use the verb itself. So you ask, are you happy? Not do you be happy.
The third trigger is the in, on, at triangle for places. In is for enclosed spaces and cities. On is for surfaces and public transport. At is for specific points in institutions. And this brilliantly illustrates why you must never learn a place word in isolation. Don't just learn the word hospital. Learn the preposition attached to it as a single chunk, at the hospital. Don't learn bus. Learn on the bus. If you memorize the preposition with the noun, you never have to pause and calculate grammar rules while speaking.
To make all of this effortless, you need to upgrade how you take notes. Turn your standard vocabulary notebook into an automatic grammar generator. When you write a new word, don't just write the translation. Write the grammar tag right next to it. Write water and tag it uncountable. Write arrive and tag it preposition at. The word you choose dictates the grammar you must use, so you have to learn them together.
I want to leave you with this thought directly from our source material. Your vocabulary is your survival kit. Do not fill it with useless items. Pack the tools you actually need to eat, sleep, travel, and connect. Remember, vocabulary isn't just a list on a page to be memorized for a test. It is a highly functional toolkit designed for the real world. Pack it wisely.
So that brings us to our final question for today's explainer. Will you keep staring at that massive, overwhelming dictionary, completely paralyzed by how many words you don't know? Or are you ready to pack your survival kit, master the core pillars, and get out there to conquer the world? The choice is yours, and your toolkit is waiting. Thanks for joining us on this explainer, and happy learning.